you want to start thinking about where you are. Where are you in your life? How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about your partner? How do you feel about, or your multiple partners? How do you feel about what you're doing with your time? Be that being at home with a child, be that being in school, working. Perhaps you're out of work and you're looking for work. Maybe you're retired and you're moving to a different stage of life. Start thinking about where you are in this first, because often what we do when we hit those roadblocks is we think about what the other person is doing wrong. Start looking at your communication. Are you at a place where you two can talk? Can you discuss? Can the group of you sit down and actually enjoy a conversation about sex and intimacy? Can you laugh? If you can't, if everything is very serious all of a sudden, then it's probably a good idea to think about talking to somebody. If you can, then maybe you do want to do something lighthearted still, because if you look at it and you say, well, I'm bored, but we can still talk, then you can talk about what might you do to spice things up. So you can start thinking, maybe how can you be creative in your relationships? I also teach a workshop on role play in relationship. How do you create your fantasy without spending 15,000 pounds on the perfect costume or the perfect environment, or the wig and the jewelry and there are loads of ways you can do it. A great way to start feeling a bit better about yourself is to find out what other people are doing. I have people come in and say, we haven't had sex in 6 months, and they think that the only couple on the planet who's never had sex in 6 months. I had one couple, I hadn't had sex in 8 years, and they thought they were the only ones. And I was able to say, no, you're not. You'd be amazed how many people where things have broken down to the point where they don't. Or people who say, well, he wants to try this or she wants to try this, and I can't imagine doing something like that. Even now, even with all the pornography and even with all the racier romance hit stories, and even with everything that people can find out about in day-to-day life, people will still think, well, that's weird, that's unusual. And I can turn around and say, actually, common, very common fantasy. Just so that you can start to accept yourself and your partner a bit better and move forward with that, rather than worrying and shutting down, because that creates more distance, and the more distance there is, the harder it is. The other thing is that when you have had difficulty, and if there is distance in place, one of the things I advise people to do is start doing little things nice together or for each other. Sometimes when couples have had really big arguments and they haven't been speaking, you can go into the kitchen and prepare a meal together, even if you're not really talking. And there's something about doing that activity together that's a pleasant activity, it's a non-conflictual activity that brings a little bit of that window for intimacy back, and you can work back from there.